Have you ever wondered how a tiny seed knows how to become a giant tree, or how a single cell builds an entire person? It all comes down to a secret language, a hidden code inside every living thing. Today, we're going to decode that language and explore the fundamental process at the very heart of biology, something called the Central Dogma.
All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we'll meet the key players in this molecular story. Then, we're going to walk through the three main acts: replication, transcription, and translation. And to finish up, we'll see why this whole process is, quite literally, the foundation of all life.
So let's just start with that one massive question. How on earth does a single cell have all the information it needs to build something as complex as you or me? Where are all the instructions? How does it know what to do?
Well, the answer is that every single cell contains a complete instruction manual. It's a master blueprint that tells the cell everything it needs to know and everything it needs to do, from what shape to be to what job to perform. Okay, so to really understand how this manual works, we first need to meet the three main characters in our story. These are the molecules that are responsible for storing, carrying, and then actually using all of these instructions for life. First up, we've got the big boss, DNA. Think of DNA as the priceless master blueprint. It's kept locked away for safekeeping inside the cell's main office, the nucleus. It never leaves. Why? Because it's way too valuable to risk getting damaged. It has every single instruction the organism will ever need for its entire life. Next up is RNA. Now, if DNA is that precious master blueprint, you're not going to take it to the messy construction site, right? No way. Instead, you make a quick photocopy of just the page you need. And that's RNA. It's a temporary, disposable message that carries one specific instruction from the blueprint out to the factory floor. And that brings us to our final character, protein. So DNA is the blueprint. RNA is the photocopy messenger. Well, proteins are the workers and the machines. They're the things that get built based on the RNA's instructions, and they do pretty much everything. They're the bricks, they're the engines, they're the communication lines. They are what make life actually happen. So now that we've met the players, let's look at the simple, powerful rule that explains how they all work together. This is the big idea, the core concept, the central dogma. At its heart, the central dogma is really just a one-way flow of information. It goes like this. First, DNA can make copies of itself. We call that replication. Second, the instructions on the DNA are copied into that messenger RNA. That's transcription. And third, the RNA message is used to build a protein. That's translation. That's it. DNA to RNA to protein. That's the secret language of life. Okay, let's zoom in on that very first step, replication. Now, before any cell can divide into two, it has to do something absolutely critical. It has to make a perfect copy of its entire master blueprint. And that's exactly what replication is all about. It's the process of perfect duplication. It ensures that when one cell becomes two, each of those new daughter cells gets its very own complete and flawless copy of the instruction manual. Without this, nothing could grow or reproduce. So really, replication is the foundation of heredity. Its whole purpose is to pass the genetic playbook on flawlessly from one generation of cells to the next. This is how organisms grow, and it's how life itself continues.
Okay, so replication copies the entire library of blueprints. But what if the cell just needs one specific recipe to build one specific protein? You're not going to check out all 2 million books, right? No, you just make a quick copy of the one page you need, and that process is called transcription.
And the process is actually pretty elegant. The cell zooms in on the specific gene it needs on the DNA, unwinds just that little section, and an enzyme comes in and makes a matching RNA copy. Then, that new little RNA message peels off and heads out of the nucleus, ready for the next step. All right, so our little RNA message is on the move, carrying a very specific set of instructions out to a cellular construction site. Now it's time to actually read that message and build something. This final, amazing step is translation. And, they call it translation for a reason. The cell is literally translating from one chemical language to another. It's going from the language of nucleic acids in the RNA to the totally different language of amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. This is the moment information becomes a physical, functional machine. So here's how it works.
The RNA message docks at a tiny molecular factory called a ribosome. The ribosome then chugs along the RNA strip, reading the code in 3-letter words. For every single word it reads, it grabs one specific building block, an amino acid, and attaches it to a growing chain. It's like a tiny assembly line, building a complex machine one piece at a time.
So, we followed the information all the way from the protected DNA blueprint to a finished, working protein. It's an incredible journey, but let's zoom out. What's the big takeaway here? Why does this simple flow of information matter so much?
Honestly, it's because this process is the operating system for all life as we know it. It controls how cells work, because proteins do basically everything. It's what allows us to grow by copying DNA through replication. And it's what ensures heredity, passing those precious blueprints on to the next generation. This is how life works.
You know, there's a saying in biology that just hits the nail on the head. DNA gets all the glory, but proteins do all the work. And it's so true. DNA is the famous archive, the master plan, but it's the humble, hardworking proteins built from those plans that are actually out there doing things, building things, and creating everything we recognize as life.
So let's just run through that flow one last time. Replication copies the entire DNA blueprint for new cells. Transcription makes a temporary RNA message from a single gene, and translation reads that message to build a functional protein. DNA to RNA to protein. Simple, elegant, and incredibly powerful.